Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Toby Talks. We've got another special guest today. He's tipped for big things by Floyd Mayweather and Anthony Joshua. He's picked up a bronze medal at the Olympics in Rio in 2016. We're having a few difficulties with the connection, but he's on the line now. Joshua, I hope you aren't offended by my haircut. I've been the victim of a terrible lockdown trim. You're looking pretty fresh, I'd say.
Nah, definitely not. I'm not looking fresh at all. But I don't know who attempted it, Toby, but we have to give them credit. They tried. It wouldn't be my style exactly, but looking at me like this, I'm in no position to talk, man. So you're looking at you're looking a lot fresher than I am. So fair play to you, man.
And how are you coping with lockdown life? Anyway, it's obviously a very frustrating time for all of us, but you must be itching to get back in the gym and get back fighting.
Yeah, man, definitely. I think we've been doing it for like 2 months now, isn't it? So I think that's like the long thing about it. Not being able to, you can train as much as you want, but there's nothing like actually fighting. So for me, training has been different as well. It's been predominantly outside. Whereas in boxing, you're used to, fair enough, you do run outside quite a lot, but the gym work is done indoors. So that's quite different, but frustrating, yeah. But mainly I have to understand that everyone is going through it. So I don't necessarily think it's something that I'm personally going through. Every athlete is going through it. And not even just athletes, just people, the normal 9-to-5 person or whoever works for themselves or whatever. So it's a world issue, so I can't pinpoint it down to myself.
And feasibly, how long would it actually take you to get back ready to fight once we're out of the lockdown situation? I saw that you mentioned in a recent interview that you want to be on the first card back after this situation begins to resolve itself. How long would it take you to get back fighting fit?
I think mentally I can imagine what I'm gonna be like, but I think it's for my coach to be like, nah, you need another 2-3 weeks or a month or 6 weeks in camp minimum before you get to where you need to get to. Because Toby, the thing is like your timing goes. My trainer's like, Buatsi, your timing will go within 2 weeks. So like in boxing and in my sport, you need timing to get into your rhythm, but to, when timing is like, when I think of throwing a punch, I'm almost 100% sure it's gonna land. I know I won't miss it, but if your timing is gone, it's harder to hit the target, to react quicker, to kind of think as quick as you usually do. So my training, it depends when I get back in the gym what I look like, whether it's totally gone or whether it's actually not a few weeks and then you be back to where it needs to be. So I couldn't necessarily say. I think the only thing that I can kind of monitor is what my fitness level is like and my weight, of course. So those are the only two things I think I can mainly control.
And it's frustrating for you as well, because obviously your last 2 scheduled fights, the first one you had to cancel because of illness, and then the second one due to coronavirus. So it must feel like it's been quite a while since you've actually stepped properly in the ring competitively.
Yeah, competitively, I haven't been in a ring. We're in May now, so basically in August it will be exactly a year. So maybe it's well over 9 months, I think, or just around 9 months or whatever. But yeah, it's been a while, man. And I was on a phone call yesterday with my manager, and I was like, mate, if I knew my fight in August was going to be my last fight for a long period of time, I was thinking, what would I have done different? But it's not to say what would I have done different. Like, I did get the win. We were just talking about, what would we have done if we knew lockdown was coming or if we knew this whole thing was going to happen. And sorry to branch off, I was in Ghana in December with my family for Christmas, and I was saying to them, I came back to England early so that I can start training camp for my next fight. But most of my mates stayed till like the first 2 weeks of January. And I was thinking, had I have known this was going on, I would have certainly stayed for the first 2 weeks as well. But I came back, I think December the 30th or the 31st or something like that. But yeah, man, in August it will be a year. Hopefully we'll see what they're doing in terms of like the behind the closed doors events and stuff like that. But yeah, I am quite eager to get out there to fight.
You mentioned just there, and a lot of people will not know this about you, as you were obviously born in Ghana. You grew up in Ghana until the age of 9, I think it was. What kind
Yeah.
of life experiences has that given you that you've then taken into the boxing world? Of course, you've probably seen the extremes of the way people live in Ghana, from the poverty through to, you know, very well off people. Do you think those experiences at a young age have kind of molded you?
Yeah, I think, like you said, having been exposed to the extreme ways in which people are living, and the bare minimum, Toby, that people survive with, and you see people that have a lot, but they're content, and they are not content to say that they don't have aspirations, but they are content with what they have, and in a sense that they're happy. Whereas sometimes in this part of the world, we have a lot of things, but we're still not complete. We're still not happy, and they have the bare minimum, and they're happy. And in relation to that, in boxing, I'm just grateful for everything. Not taking things for granted. Getting in the ring, coming out full health, and my opponent's healthy as well. And to, you know, I've had 12 fights, to be able to say, look, I've had 12 fights, I've won all 12. Not to take it for granted. But every little thing, man, I can't express how grateful I am for it. Do you know what I mean? I've seen, you know, people that have nothing, um, absolutely nothing. I can't even put it to words. But yeah, I've seen people that have nothing. People that don't know when their next meal is, what they're gonna eat next. And you see me, Toby, I've planned my next 10 meals in my head already. But there's people where they don't even know when that's happening. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm grateful for life as a whole, man.
And obviously, your early days growing up with your family in Ghana, did you experience that hardship yourself? Have you kind of experienced almost two lives in some sort of way? You obviously grew up your early days in Ghana. Did you experience that hardship, and then have you come over here and gradually started building the life for yourself?
No, this is where I have to give credit to my parents. Like, they came over here, and started working, and they were able to bring myself and my sister over. Um, I lived a comfortable life in Ghana. I can't say that I went for days without eating. Like, I was never in that situation. I lived with all my cousins, my aunties, my uncles. My grandma brought us all up, and I lived with all my cousins. We're all around the same age. Or like, if someone's like, I don't know, if someone is 10, the youngest person might be like 3. But right now we're all in our 20s and early 30s. So it's like we're all around the same group. So no, we never went a day without eating. Thankfully, we had food to eat. I went to primary school in Ghana, a public primary school. Yeah, man, I lived a normal life in Ghana, so I can't say that I lived in poverty. There may have been poverty around, or I probably knew people in that situation. I saw it, you know, for myself. Not that I heard about it, I saw it. But yeah, and I've lived in like rough areas, and lived with people that, you know, don't have much to live off. And it's mad you say this, Toby. As I'm describing this to you, I remember like, um, a cousin of mine, like, you know, in England, we've got toilets in the houses and everything. And I remember I went to stay
Yeah.
with him for a few weeks or whatever. And I was like, you know, like, I want to go to the toilet. Like, where is it? And it was basically like outside, man. There was like a public one. It was outside, and it wasn't even like a toilet. It was just, yeah, it was like, I don't even know if I'm allowed to even describe it, but yeah, there was just like loads of holes in the grounds, and he was like, "Yeah, this is the toilet." Like, it was just a building outside, like in public. Do you know what I mean? So there's people that are living a very, very, life is different, man. Totally different to what we're experiencing and what we live over in this part of the world.
I think certainly what we can take from the situation at the moment, obviously, people in the UK have had simple pleasures taken away from them, being able to go out to bars, clubs, restaurants, and all that kind of thing. But as you mentioned there, people back home in Ghana haven't even necessarily got the basic amenities, you know, around them, not even able to necessarily go to the toilet in their own home. And it probably, for someone like you, it's a lot easier to kind of come to terms with that, whereas people often in this country have it quite easy.
Yeah, I think one thing though, Toby, is like, there are parts in Ghana where the struggles that we've both mentioned exist, but there are also parts that they live a very good life. Like for example, when I went to Ghana in December, because I hadn't been around that time, like I saw things that I saw cars that I was like, mate, I didn't even see this in England. Like the country has developed to a next level. So there are parts that, for sure, the poverty that we've spoken about exists. And how that's affected me, or how I've managed to kind of translate that to a time like this. I don't know. I think as an individual, and in boxing as well, Toby, you learn to embrace isolation and individuality. I don't know if that's a word or if I'm just making it up, but you learn to do things alone. And sometimes in the gym, Toby, like it's one-on-one, it's you and your coach. And if no one's making any noise or you can't hear the bags being hit, it means you're cheating. It's not. Whereas if you train in a group, like the coach can't really identify who's working and who's not working. But if it's one-on-one, if you're not hitting that bag, there are no noises. So I think, and when you run as well, Toby, I just came from a run now. I was running on my own. Like I'm used to doing things alone. But I guess it's not the same as obviously having to stay in too much. And that part I'm probably finding a bit harder because I am always out. Like I'll train, I'll go out. Like I'm always out. Whether it's at a boxing gym, my mate owns a boxing gym, so whether I'm just there, just like relaxing with my mates at that gym, or whether I'm just at another family member's house or a friend's house, I'm always out. And like you said about restaurants, I always, you're probably not expecting this, but I'm always out ordering food. The healthy ones, by the way, let me just put that in there. Now I've just come up from a run, I've had lunch. I'd love to just go outside, but you know what I mean? I've already done my outing today.
Was it the individuality aspect of the sport of boxing that
Yeah.
actually attracted you to the sport initially?
Yeah, because I played football, not saying I was great at it, but it was like a team sport, and you might be 3-0 up, but if your defense and your goalie's he's not that good or they're not that good, the other team is going to score. You're going to lose as a team. Or if if someone scores like an own goal, or if there's a one-on-one and the keeper just, you're thinking, mate, you could have done better. Like, do you know what I mean? You can always blame someone in team sports, or it may not necessarily be in your control. Whereas in an individual sport, there's a team that obviously helps me to do my preparation and everything, but I get in that ring as an individual and it's time to perform. Everything falls on me or it falls on the other boxer, and we've got to do what we want to do as the individual. There's no substitution. That's like another thing about individual sports. There's no substitution. There's no you can't get a replacement. You can't have a breather when you want to. Like it's full on. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I liked about it, to say, you know, if I put in all the work, I should get the results. I don't need to worry about if we've got a good striker or a good keeper or a good midfielder. Is the referee going to be fair? No, it's a fight. It's an individual sport. I feel you have more control, basically, and that's what I like.
You grew up in Croydon after you moved over from
Yeah.
Ghana. You were part of a pool of talented individuals that have come out of Croydon, such as Stormzy and Wilfred Zaha, who obviously plays for Crystal Palace. You must be really proud to come from that part of London.
Yeah, no, definitely. I always tell people, Toby, that Croydon is the capital of London. London is the capital of England, but Croydon, remember, is the capital of London. And like you said, man, there's a lot of talent coming out of there. And myself, Stormzy, Zaha, there's so many more that, you know, they haven't got the recognition yet. Just like myself, they're just building, and they will get there, and they will get the recognition, man. But there's a lot more that are coming out. Hats off to Stormzy and Wilf. They've got there. Do you know what I mean? They're currently there. But like I said, there's a lot of up and coming, whether it's artists or athletes or whatever it is that people are doing. There's a lot more talent coming out of Croydon, and hopefully within a few years' time, they'll be out there and people will know about them.
Now, you built up your amateur career, and that resulted in being picked to go to the Olympics in 2016, to go to Rio. You picked up a bronze medal there. What was it like, first of all, to become an Olympian, and then second of all, to actually get up on the podium as well?
Yeah. Till this day, the best experience, 100%. And to sum it up, there was a coach on the Great Britain team. He's still there. And he said, "Oh, Josh, so the top you're wearing," I said, "Okay." He goes, "That's the world." And I was like, "Okay, cool, that's the world." And he goes, "Look at a little dot on the top." I haven't got a dot on my top, but just say if there's a little patch there. He was like, "That little patch are the amount of people that are Olympians to the amount of people that are not." So I was like, wow, this whole t-shirt, that little patch there are Olympians. So that's one thing. And then he said, and I think of how much smaller that patch would have to be within that big patch for you to be an Olympic medalist. So it puts it into perspective. I was like, wow, it's a very, very elite club. Did I do anything special to get into it? No, I'm as normal as Dave walking down the road. It took a lot of hard work. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say I didn't work hard for it. I worked. I always say to people like I died for it, but I didn't obviously clearly die. But I committed to it, and in terms of the hard work and the dedication, I committed myself to it. I gave myself up for it. Like I can't put enough emphasis on. Like I just remember the weeks and the months and just being consistent in what I did, and this is where it led to. So a great experience, man.
But you mentioned the hard work you put in there. You became a university graduate in the meantime as well, graduating from St Mary's University in London. That must have taken its toll. You must have had to have sacrificed a lot to be able to manage those two aspects of your life.
Yeah. I sacrificed sleep, but to be fair, I don't really sleep much, and that was kind of easy to give up on. But I think I had to be organized, Toby, in terms of like, let's say my first year I was full time, then my second year I went part time, then my third year I stopped uni completely. I did half of it as a part timer, then I stopped completely to actually try and qualify for the Olympics. And then once I qualified, I still didn't go back to uni for a few months. Then I went to the Olympics, and then when I came back, within 2 weeks, I went straight back to full time to finish the second half of my third year. So yeah, it took 4 years overall. It didn't take the 3 years that I kind of wanted it to take. It took 4 years. And yeah, like it's and I tell people, Tom, like, Toby, sorry, I'm not the brightest of people. Like being organized with my time and learning the bits that I had to learn. And knowing that I wanted an Olympic medal and a good degree, that's what drove me. So I tell people, man, if I did it, you can do it. And I got a 2-1. Let me just slide that in there. I got a 2-1. That's a good grade. Do you know what I mean? And I wasn't even full time. Like I wasn't full time. Like I was part time. And there's a lot of full timers that got a 2-1 because it's a good grade. So I'm glad I got a 2-1. And this is where I have to pick up my university teachers. They worked with me, emailing me booking last minute appointments, and for Great Britain for working with me as well, for supplying me with the evidence that I needed to say to my uni, look, I haven't been in the country for a month because I've been boxing. Can I get an extension? Do you know what I mean? And there's a whole heap of people that kind of helped me to kind of organize and to understand where it is. But yeah, you have to learn the system, and that's what I did. Learn the system, like I kind of worked. So I'll tell you another thing, Toby, this is quite interesting. Getting into my third year, I was gonna get a 2-2. I knew what percentage I was on. So I worked out the amount of modules I had left, and I was like, to even it out so I can get a 2-1, this is what I can afford to get minimum in each module. And I worked it all out, man. So when my results were coming back, I was like, cool, you got higher than you needed, well done. Or nah, you got very low in that. You can't afford to get any lower than that. So I had all the numbers linked up. And when it came, I was only like a few percentages off a first even. So now I was even throwing my phone away thinking I could have got a first, you know what I mean? Because I wasn't too far of a 2-1 going into third year, but I was like, mate, I'm gonna have to perform a miracle just to get a 2-1 here. But then when the results came back, I was like, imagine I could have even got a first. But yeah, man, just to round it up, like you just have to be organized, learn what you have to learn, and just yeah, once you're organized, I think you know the time you have and what you can do and what you can't do, and that's kind of how I worked it out.
See, I only just got a 2-1 and I didn't have anything else to focus on. So I've got no excuses if I dropped any lower than that. But was it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
it your parents or your family that kind of pushed you to push the academic side as well? Was that influence, is that an
yeah,
influence that came from them?
yeah, yeah, man, definitely. It's something that my parents always emphasized on, especially my dad. Like he said, education is the most important thing. Well, he said that from little, and then my other younger sister said, Josh, if you go to uni and you get anything lower than a T1, there's no point. You may as well not have gone. That's not. I don't think that's true, but that's kind of the pressure she was putting on me. Do you know what I mean? So, but yeah, it's something that my parents drummed into my sister and I. And they were like, "Listen, education is everything." And growing up, Toby, I was like, nah, because if you're good at sports, you can get away with it. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do that. But now sitting back as a guy in his 20s, I'm like, thank God I listened to them and it stuck with me. And the things that I've learned, because in boxing, fair enough, we do fight for a living, Toby, but there's contracts to go through. There's the basic knowledge of things that you should have that to an extent you may not you can. I'm not saying I'm not saying you have to go to uni, but in my experience, going to uni helped me to understand things a lot better, to be more articulate, even if it means using the wrong words in the wrong context. But do you know what I mean? You get what I'm saying, and just understanding things and being able to reason. That's one thing I learned from uni. You know, in boxing, Toby, they'll say, yeah, you're gonna get £10 for this, and you're gonna be like, oh, £10, that's a lot of money. I'll sign a contract. But that £10, you have to pay your trainer, you have to pay the tax man. If there's a gym or whatever you're using, you have to pay that. You have to pay your management team. There's a lot of expenses that come off. So you might end up with a fiver or like £4 from that £10 that you thought you were gonna get. So yeah, no, uni is helped me a lot from my experience.
Yeah. It's not always, the glamour that people expect it to be. Having said that, one man that has experienced a lot of glamour is Floyd Mayweather, and I believe you had an encounter with him at the Olympics. What was that moment like, and what did he say to you?
Yeah, no. So with that, Toby, we got to the arena to watch another team member, and they were like, one of the boys from the team was like, "Oh, Mayweather's down there, you lot, but we can't get to him because there's security all around him." And I was like, "Listen, boys, thanks for the heads up, but if Mayweather's down there, I'm going down there." Like, I'm like, "Listen, I don't live in America, so I'm not gonna bump into him by chance." So I was like, "Forget this, I'm going down there." So I got down there. Security man was like, "Nope, you're not going anywhere. Like, where do you think you're going?" And after arguing for about 5 minutes or trying to justify why he should let me go when he said no to everyone else, I was like, "Cool, I'm gonna go." And as I was turning around, there was a guy that was showing Mayweather everything, and he called me over. He was like, "Oh no, that's Buatsi, let him in." And then he just introduced me to him, and he just said, at that time I'd had 2 fights, knocked out 2 of them, so he was like, he's fighting for a medal in his next fight. Great prospect, look out for him. And yeah, Mayweather was very complimentary. Although Toby, what he said to me, he probably said to all the other boxers he met. But I was like, yeah, it is what it is. This is what Mayweather said to me, so I take it as it is. But yeah, very complimentary. He was a nice guy, man. And at that time he was still active, and I say that's the greatest boxer of my generation. Like, he's unbeaten. He's won multiple world titles in different weight classes. So yeah, it was a mad experience because the way it was set out to be, like, the security men, and the thing is they didn't understand English, so they were not having it. So after trying, and I don't speak Portuguese, I know 2 or 3 words in it, but after trying and trying, someone saw me, and that was like the gateway. It was a good experience, man.
Yeah, definitely. And another person that has followed a similar trajectory as you is Anthony Joshua. And I know you and Anthony, obviously AJ, are very, very close. What is that relationship like? Has he had a lot of advice for you over the years as you've built up the fights?
Yeah, I think, as I always say to people, it's good to get advice, but it's better to if it's from like someone that's done it before. So like I can talk to you about uni because you've been to uni and you can advise me how to do it. Um, but I couldn't speak to you about netball. I'm thinking, I hope you haven't played netball. You may have, I don't know. Have you?
No,
Okay.
no, no, not my sport.
Believe it or not, I've played netball before and I'm very good at it. But yeah, I couldn't
Oh, nice.
speak to you about netball because you could advise me about sports in general, but specifically to do with netball, not really. And that's what it is with Josh. Like, because he's been there and done it, I can say, oh, here's the situation. What do you think? What would you do? There's a few people that I like to ask that question to, and he's one of them. So advice from him is very valuable. Yeah, definitely.
And along with Anthony Joshua, your dad that you mentioned a few moments ago, there's some lovely pictures of him celebrating some of your victories in the ring with you. Is he another person that's had a massive influence and impact on your career?
I wouldn't say my career. I would say just in my life in general, which then actually has probably gone into the career in terms of the way I think about certain things. So yeah, you could actually say that. But yeah, no, he has as well. And my mum as well. Definitely, my mum's had a lot of impact on me as a person, which then goes into how I think about certain things and certain decisions that I make. The good ones. So when you do read any bad things decisions that's happened, you can be assured it was what I did, not what they advised me to do. But yeah, no, I'm grateful for both of my parents. My parents and a lot of aunties and uncles that I have around me who have been really, really helpful, man.
And we mentioned Anthony Joshua there. You obviously fought on the undercard in the first fight between him and Andy Ruiz. What an experience that must have been at Madison Square Gardens. That must have been probably one of the moments that you sort of took stock and realized, you're on the big stage now.
Yeah, yeah. There was no thinking this is just a little show or anything. I was like MSG in United States. I was like, this is big. And again, it's an experience, Toby, that I can say, yep, under the belt. And I can use that to my advantage. But yeah, you're right. When that was happening, I was like, this is mad. This is MSG. There's a lot of big fights that's happened there. Some of my favorite fights have happened there. And living in England, you think, okay, I'll box at the O2 or maybe at Wembley or a big football stadium, but you never think of going to America to be involved in the big fights like that. So that was an experience as well. And it was different as well because I was in Miami for about 2 weeks training. Then we went to New York to actually box. So that was nice to do like an overseas training camp and then to fight overseas as well. Very good experience. Very, very good experience, man. Yeah, definitely. And I traveled with my team and the men on my team. I've known them since since I was little, since I was very, very young. I've known these guys and they've had an interest in me and in what I do well before I started to win anything, way, way years before the Olympic Games. So it's no surprise that they're here in the professional journey. Like it's for me, it's expected, and from them, it's expected as well. So now we had a good time in the States. Yeah, definitely good experience, man.
How important is it to have those people around you that have known you, since day one, since you've started your boxing career? It's obviously great for you because they're friends for you as well. So you can watch them grow as your career grows and go on to achieve everything you want to achieve together.
Yeah, it's very important. And I think leading up to fights is quite good because everyone knows what to do without being told, or how to move, or how to handle themselves, or how to handle each other, or to handle me as the athlete. Like, no one has to be told. Everyone knows. Like, we all speak the same language, so everyone gets on. Like, yeah, it's quite nice. It's a natural thing and it flows. But that's from being around each other for years after years after years after years. So yeah, and I'm talking years, like over a decade. Like we've all been around each other, like plus 12 years, man. So it's good to have that around. Nice. One is my amateur trainer. Let me just name them. One of them is my amateur trainer, who's not my trainer. The other one is my best friend who introduced me to the sport, and has been there when I'm moving from gym to gyms or training. And I'd call him random days and we'll do a pad session. He's the first guy that introduced me to boxing. The third one, again, is my best friend who has been praying over the phone for me from my first fight in 2009, October the 30th, and has prayed for me before every single fight I've ever had whilst I've been living this life. Do you know what I mean? So as a professional now, rather than praying over the phone, he's able to physically come and to be there, and to travel around the world or wherever I'm at. So yeah, that's quite important. And the other one is my sparring partner from the very first day I entered the gym. So he's always been there. He's seen the skills that I've developed. If there's anyone that you want to test me out, he's probably the best guy, because before I think about doing something, he's worked it out, because you start to notice a person's rhythm and pattern and habits, and he's got all that knowledge in his head. So they're the four main guys that have been around me from the beginning that are still there now.
I saw a great picture of you out in Saudi Arabia talking to Tony Bellew before the AJ Ruiz, the second fight. And I just wondered whether there's been any sort of boxers or ex-pros along the way that have given you any sort of nuggets of advice that have been valuable to you.
It's just to say that this career is very short, so maximize it while you can. And for myself, I'm seeing that you're only relevant for a certain period of time, so maximize it while you can. Stay true to yourself as well. Don't lose yourself in all of this, because the show will only go on for a few years, and after that you have to be who you originally are. So you can't live a fake life for this whole period. Do you know what I mean? So stay true to myself, and for me, if it's being polite or whatever people want to say, then I will be polite. But I do know that in the ring, you have to do what you have to do. And I always say this to people, Toby, like, you know, like the promotion and the TV and that, they think, Buatsi, nice guy. But I said to my mate, if I were a nice guy and I didn't, and I was also nice in the ring, they wouldn't even blink at me. But because they keep mentioning the transformation from being polite outside the ring to being an absolute, forgive me to say it, like an absolute savage in the ring, they like that, from going from one mode to the other mode, and that's what they like. So yeah, you have to be aware of the industry as well, Toby. When an entertaining business, you have to entertain, but as I said, do it in a way where you don't lose yourself. And if you're a respectable person, then keep that respect. Do you know what I mean? Don't lose yourself and be something that you're not, just for whatever. But then again, Toby, someone might say that's the wrong advice, because as we know, like, sometimes the most controversial people are the ones that will generate a lot, and that will, that people would have an interest or will tune in to see what's happening, or to see whether they've been beaten up for talking rubbish or not. So yeah, it's a two-way thing, but choose which one you want to do and stick with it.
Now, a big carrot for you, after we're out of this horrendous situation that we find ourselves in, is a potential fight somewhere down the line with Dimitri Bivol, and also the possibility of a fight with Anthony Yarde as well. What is your ideal fight, and where would you like to be fighting as well? What's the kind of dream fight in the dream stadium, the dream arena?
I think for myself and Yarde, it'd be at the O2, primarily in London, because I'm from Southeast, from East. It's not far. It's kind of in the middle ground, and it's just like, it's local to everyone, but it has a limit because of the capacity. So perhaps somewhere bigger, definitely would aim for that. And with Bivol again, anywhere that's captivating and that's anywhere that's going to draw interest and generate the most money. Because at the end of the day, he has a title. And if I'm in that position to fight for that title, or if I'm in a position where I'm trying to get that title, where the fighters won't really matter as long as we're paid well for it. And you know, like, yeah, the contract is also in my favor and not just one-sided.
And would you like to fight back in Ghana one day? Would that be a dream of yours?
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. My cousin Isaac Bugbo, he's fought a few times, and whenever I look at the pictures or the videos, I'm like, wow, like the people that love boxing. So I think what a way to bring them together again via boxing. They're obsessed with it, man. So definitely, I would love to, man.
And sport in general, aside from boxing, you mentioned playing football earlier on. Are you a big football fan?
No, I was terrible at football, Toby. Let's put that out there. I wasn't a baller or anything. If you speak to like my Sunday league coach, he would just tell you mainly just was just getting into fights. Like we're mid-match, we're playing a match, and mid-match, I'm there rocking it with someone else. No need for that, man. But yeah, no, I follow football a little bit, not as much as I'm into boxing and that. And of course, being from Croydon Palace, I'm a supporter of them in what they do, man. Definitely.
Well, honestly, Josh, it's been a pleasure talking to you today. The signal's been a bit in and out, but we've persevered with it, and we've really enjoyed hearing about your journey. And I'm hoping that we can watch you up there as world champion again,
Yeah.
you know, sometime very soon.
No, yes, Toby. Thank you very much. It's been difficult, but we've worked with it, man. And I appreciate your time. Thanks for having me as well, man.